Dinky is a podcast where two pals just won't shut the F up about being child-free and the dink lifestyle. I'm Erica, and I don't have kids because I like being happy.
And I'm Kristen, and I don't have kids because have you ever tried to move out of the country before? It's a fucking nightmare. It's a goddamn harrowing nightmare. And if I had children on top of all this shit, I couldn't. I'd be stuck.
And I'm Neill, and I don't have kids because, I mean, what the fuck? Have you seen this dystopian hell nightmare that we live in? No thanks.
Snaps to that.
Also, I just got sterilized, so
Woo!
there's that.
So we can't have kids.
It is what it is.
Today, we are joined by friend of the pod, Neill Wolf, for a special episode on a highly requested topic that was requested by Neill himself that has gotten a lot of attention in the media. The alleged male loneliness epidemic. More and more men report feeling isolated and emotionally adrift. But is there any truth to these cries for help, and can anything be done about it? Neill, I want to hear your initial thoughts on the male loneliness epidemic.
That's a good question, Erica. As the foremost expert on male loneliness.
No!
No, I'm just kidding. I think something you guys and I have in common is we're terminally online millennials, you know, and this is a phenomenon that I've been kind of observing at the periphery of for a while. I think we definitely have a problem with social isolation and that trending upward as we spend more time online and physical spaces go away. Another thing I'm seeing is a lot of blaming women for this problem, and that ain't cool. And I also think the framing is like an epidemic is kind of another attempt to elevate an issue that affects men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like center
Totally.
that. I think it has more to do with like the way men are socialized, and I thought you guys would probably have some good thoughts about it, and so thank you for having me.
Kristen, do you have any initial thoughts on the male loneliness epidemic? You're giving me crazy eyes.
I did give you crazy eyes because honestly, I didn't know we were recording until like 15 minutes ago. I've had quite the last 24 hours, but I will say that this has been a topic that has come up a lot with us offline, and originally I was hesitant to talk about it, because it's not my place. I'm not in the male population.
What a responsible person. A woman who gives her thoughts on everything suddenly thinks it's not her place to touch something.
Yeah. I'm not in the male community, but I am in the woman community, so I can speak on women's issues, no fucking problem. And if you talk about shit about my women's issues, I got something to say. But I've never been a man, so I don't know. It's a little hard for me. And I also felt like I haven't done enough research on this topic. There is a famous book that gets thrown out a lot when we talk about the male loneliness epidemic. Both of you chime in if you know what I'm talking about. It was about, I believe, a woman who transitioned to a man and originally used to think, men were pretty crappy people as a population. And then she transitioned and he realized actually it's harder to be a man. That was this person's like final conclusion, that it was actually worse to be a man and you felt more disconnected and more pressures in like the male community. I'm obviously superficially summarizing this. That's the extent of my experience with this whole epidemic, is like having heard secondhand about this book and the conclusion. So ever since then, I've been like, I don't know if I really want to like dive into this topic and have opinions on it if I don't know enough. But, I definitely can come up with some other thoughts about my initial interpretation without any data, because let's be fucking for real. Men don't talk to each other. They don't ask each other questions. They aren't vulnerable with each other. The list goes on. So that's my 2 cents.
I do think at the end of the day, we're probably going to land it in a very similar space. So I'm excited to unpack. But before we do that, I just, because we try to do our research, we try to be good people on this podcast, where and if we can. I did want to give some stats behind this conversation, just to try to be fair to the men. My dad accused me of bashing men yesterday, and I said, maybe I do.
Can I ask what happened? What transpired?
I mean, what's funny is, have you both seen the reel where I was like reacting to the Reddit post where somebody was asking, like, what do your partners ask you to do that makes you feel manly?
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, my dad watched that and thought that I was bashing men, which I suppose I can see where that's coming from. I kind of just thought I was like laughing and reacting to these posts that were sort of self-deprecating, I thought. I've posted things on the internet that were definitely way more male bashing than that. But he really had a reaction to that and thought that I was being
like
too
you've
mean.
been way harder
Yeah.
on men and a lot of other content. And some of those answers were goofy as fuck, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
they're like, I did the dishes one time, and it makes me feel big.
I mean, I laugh though, partially because I believe it. The
Yeah.
fact that like, even in my own household, like my husband opens all the jars for me. He opens all the hard containers. He mows the lawn. Like, I bet you he would corroborate all of those statements. I think just like for us, it's like it feels like anybody could do that.
Do you think he would say that makes me feel like a man when I mow the lawn?
Irony is, when I said this to Seth today, he was laughing and he was like, I do love when you ask me to open a jar. I do love when you ask me to get something off the shelf.
That's the thing. I think it's true, which is like we should be just doing that all day, every day if it makes them feel better about themselves.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of it too. Is like, I know that if I need to open a jar, like I've opened jars that are hard to open without Seth here before. You get a knife out, you get a ladder out to get something from the shelf. Like, I can do it. But I know if it makes him feel like a little good, fine. I'll let you live this little fantasy that I can't do it without you.
So you weren't laughing at them necessarily. Where do you think the laughing was coming from with that reel?
It's a little from column A, a little from column B. I am a little bit laughing at the men that, like, it makes you feel, it's like stroking your ego that I need you to do this, because it's such a silly thing to feel good about,
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of it is like, it again makes me question, like, what the fuck is masculinity then? Like, I can do all of those things without you. The fact that you feel special for that, I don't feel like those are, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a valid thing to feel special about.
So can I ask you, like, is there something Seth does that makes you feel womanly?
Well, I started thinking about that after he said that, and I do use she, they pronouns. Like, I'm fine with either, because a couple of years ago when I started to unpack this kind of stuff, I was like, I do feel like gender is fucking stupid. Like, I don't feel like I mean, there are traditionally female things that I like. I like to do my hair, I like skincare, I like makeup, whatever. But, like, I don't feel like I'm doing those things to feel womanly. Like, there's nothing that I do in my life where I'm, like, seeking feeling feminine, if that makes sense. I just, like, feel like I'm seeking an expression of myself.
Isn't that weird? Because I feel like we have a man here we can ask, but it feels like the male identity is about these, like, things.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I mean, I don't know. I guess you could argue, like, pregnancy, watching kids are, like, traditionally womanly things that would make a woman feel womanly. I don't know, but it feels like they're in totally different camps. Am I making sense here?
Yeah,
Neill?
but what's your perception on masculinity?
Wow, that's a really big question.
You have 30 seconds.
Let me chew on that for a second. Well, I like what you said about, like, you talked about, like, doing your hair or whatever, but, like, you don't see it as much as an expression of femininity as an expression just of yourself, your personality, whatever, right? And I was thinking when you said that, like, that's kind of how I feel about, like, mowing the lawn or opening a jar. It's like, I don't see it as fundamentally tied to my masculine identity. I just like being helpful. But I think there's a really kind of rigid set of things that are traditionally associated with masculinity, right? Like opening the jars, mowing the lawn, lifting heavy shit. But I don't know. I think that's something we need to get away from a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a little bit of what's interesting because I'm trying to think of things that Seth would ask me to help him with that he couldn't do.
I hate to say it, but is it kind of like womanly things are all beauty and visual, and you feel appreciated as a woman when you look pretty, and like in a way that's promoting objectification of women? Because it's like, I feel womanly when my husband thinks I look pretty, and when I look pretty, I do my nails, I do my hair. It's just, whereas like a guy is doing things, like doing an action versus looking pretty. I don't know. We're getting into philosophy I've never thought about, to be honest.
Totally. No,
Sure,
I think this is interesting. I'm trying to think of things, though, that are actually, like, to Neil's point, I'm trying to think of things that are actually, like, helping. Like, you know, for instance, like, maybe
Doing
Seth
the dishes
sometimes,
and
like,
the laundry.
can't get a sticker off or something like that. He'll be like, can you get this sticker off, you know, because you have nails or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like... I think what I'm thinking of as the difference is, like, if he asked me to do something like that, I'm happy to help him to do that. I don't feel particularly like, fuck yeah. You know,
Yeah.
Seth, what he said is it does make him feel good to do that. Where I don't feel like for, like, things that maybe are stereotypically female, you know, helping with something.
Here, like cooking and cleaning are like the two traditionally, and taking care of kids, right? Like,
yeah.
Traditionally woman roles of the household. So like, do you get gratification when you do all the cooking? No, probably not.
Yeah. There is a difference in my mind between these two things, though, because he also could cook and clean, you know? Whereas we're talking about things here that, like, women traditionally can't necessarily do on their own, like jars.
But they could. You could do that. You could do those things when he's not around.
Yeah.
I used to mow the lawn at one of my houses. I liked it.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
So where are we going with this, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into stats.
All right.
According to a recent Pew survey, 16% of men say they're lonely all or most of the time. Only 48% of men reported feeling satisfied with friendships, according to a May 2021 survey by the Survey Center on American Life. 1 in 5 men said they had gotten emotional support from a friend in the past week, compared to 4 in 10 women, so about 50% less. However, a 2023 Gallup survey did discover that men and women are equally lonely. So, any initial thoughts on these stats?
My first kind of reaction is that I'm not really seeing strong evidence that there's like a hugely disproportionate difference between men and women when it comes to experiencing loneliness, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like if we truly had like a crisis of epidemic proportions, the gap would be a little more obvious.
Yeah, I do think we have a loneliness problem in society.
100%, for sure.
And I do think men are maybe less resilient in loneliness. I think that they generally have fewer skills to combat loneliness in terms of, like, the ability to interact with, like, you know, like Kristen said, like, they don't ask each other questions. I feel like men, I mean, this is a conversation we've had at our house a million times. I don't feel like men are as proactive in finding friendships or seeking friendships or maintaining friendships as women are. I have to a lot of times remind my husband, like, oh, you should text your friend, or oh, you should reach out to your friend. Oh, we should make plans with our friends. I feel like I'm more of the instigator for even his own friendships than he is.
Can I ask like a basic question here? Like, yeah. Neil, what makes you feel not lonely? Because I think like defining loneliness is different for different people. And like you're saying, you know, for you, like you have friends online a lot, but maybe like you don't see as many people in person, and maybe that would make you feel lonely. Like, is it just like having physical like closeness to make somebody not feel lonely, or is it emotional, or how do you define that?
I mean, I definitely think like physical interaction is really, really important. Like, I think a big driver of this loneliness crisis is like too much onlineness and kind of retreating into your own life. I love being online, but I think I also have a pretty rich like in-person social life. Like, I'm in bands. I have like plenty of good friends like from high school and like places I hang out at regularly. So I constantly spend time with people who love me, right? I mean, you get lonely or whatever, but I feel like I'm actively counteracting that emotion by spending time with other people, right?
By being physically present with other people.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Another thing I do is every like week in the middle of the week, I have 2 or 3 really close friends that come over and we just watch movies, talk and hang out and drink and just catch up. We've kind of were like, since we're all like adults now, we all have like full-time careers and, you know, it's hard to make time. Yeah. But we've tried to commit to this on a regular weekly basis because we all agree that it brings us so much satisfaction just to see each other and connect on a regular basis, right? Because you just get reminded that there's like real people in the real world that care about your life. What you said, Erica, about like having to remind Seth to hang out with his friends or whatever, because I think that's a really common pattern. Like, I think men are kind of socialized to like internalize a lot of stuff and not complain about experiencing loneliness. And maybe that contributes to him being less inclined to reach out if he's feeling like a lack of social interaction or something like that, just because of the way he might have been raised or conditioned, you know.
Totally. I think part of my frustration with the loneliness epidemic is I'm like, this is all related to patriarchy. You guys set this system up where you don't share your feelings. You guys set the system up where marriage is the center of everything. And I do feel like part of the problem is that traditionally in American culture, people get married and then men just rely on their partners to be their sole emotional support. And now we're living in an era where women have a lot more freedom, and a lot of women are choosing to not fuck men because they're like, why would I waste my time with this person who doesn't see me as a human?
An equal.
And then men are just like blaming. I mean, my perception is that I feel like a lot of men are blaming women for this problem because women are no longer like hooking up with men, and they're like, I don't have anyone, I'm like alone. But I'm like, I feel like an epidemic is like saying that the government or culture needs to do something to like step in and fix this. But I'm like, this is a problem you could fix easily for yourself. Go to therapy, try to open up, go find a men's hiking group.
Well, yeah, this is what's so interesting to me is I took a gender psychology class in college, and it's like there's like one thing that I took away from the entire class, and probably only like 10 things I took away from college in general, because who the fuck remembers what you learned in college? But anyway, the
college
one thing
is for
that
nerds.
Learning is for losers.
Yeah.
Amen.
But the one thing I did learn was that men bond by doing actions with each other, activities, and women bond by sharing experiences. So like in this class anyway, they said like men socialize by, you know, playing games, going to play basketball, that kind of thing. And women constantly go, oh, like when they share an experience, they go, that experience happened to me. I also had this thing. Like we're relating to each other by, you know, verbalizing experiences. So anyway, I still think of that as like, when we talk about loneliness, like what does that mean? And I think for men, do they need to bridge the gap between being physically present and emotionally present the way women are with each other? Or if just being physically present is good enough and it's just like doing activities together, then what the fuck, man? Like, just
Yeah.
call somebody. Like,
Yeah.
just hang out with somebody.
Kristen, can I ask you something?
Please.
Did this class, do you think you said that men are more, they bond more easily by like doing activities together, like let's say playing sports, right? Do you think that's like fundamentally grounded in male psychology, or if it's sort of like a social, cultural conditioning type of thing?
I was wondering that too. I mean, I can't imagine in the context of a psychology class, there must be some truth to like psychologically that's how men bond. But I mean, I wonder if most of this is not just social, cultural norms that we've developed that could be adjusted. I don't know.
Well, the reason I ask is because I think about this a lot, right? Because like, and this is something I was trying to get at earlier with like feeling neutral about things like mowing the lawn or like traditional man things that you might do in a household. It's like when I was younger, I've never been like really interested in sports. Like I was more, my whole life I've been much more of a like kind of creative and feelings oriented person, which is kind of counter to the narrative of men like physical things or mechanical things or this and that, you know. Like if your interests align with something that's more like emotion driven, like that's sometimes categorized as feminine. Like overall, I have this thought that at our core, people want a lot of the same things between when you consider like men and women, right? Like people want emotional support. People want to be able to talk about their feelings. And I don't think it matters whether you're a man or a woman. I think part of the solution to some of this stuff is just like, can we learn how to recognize our shared humanity? Women share experiences and talk about things that happen to them and are more likely to open up about their feelings, things like that. But is that a psychological thing that women inherently have, or is it conditioning to where you feel like you're more open to doing that type of thing?
Yeah, it's like nature versus nurture, basically.
Yeah. Like I have male friends that I feel like I can talk to about my feelings, right? Mm-hmm. But that's because of like over the course of my life, I've intentionally built relationships with people that don't have hangups about that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think I'm happier and have a better life for that, you know? So when I think about like male loneliness and this like lack of ability to make friends and have rich relationships in your life, I'm like, part of me is like, this can be learned, man. You can actively take some steps in your own life to bridge the gap a little bit.
I do think it can be a little bit of both in terms of like maybe women have more of a natural inclination towards some of those things, but society also sets it up so that we have more opportunity, or I don't know, maybe we're just naturally inclined and then lean into just like being more talkative. But your brain is flexible. Like you can teach it to do more things, you know, emotionally. And I think maybe men don't offer themselves enough opportunity to like work on that muscle, because I do feel like a lot of men historically have relied on their wives to be that emotional person. And I'm like, if you can do that with your partner, you can do that with men. But I think a lot of men don't ever give themselves the opportunity to be vulnerable with another man. And so then they just drink with their friends or play ping pong. I don't know what men do with each other.
We're all in the ping pong league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But does that make sense? Like what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of times men just rely solely on the physical activities instead of ever bridging that gap of being emotional and communicative.
Totally. Definitely
that's obviously
with
a
their
generalization, but
yeah. But I mean, I would definitely say that's like the most common pattern I've seen in my life. Most adult men that I know don't have deep emotional relationships. Friends, but I think there's even still, I mean, I see it less because I feel like my circles are more kind of touchy-feely and like open about like emotions and stuff. But I think there's still this kind of pervasive element of like, you can't talk about your feelings with the homies, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I do feel like this is such a learned behavior culturally. Like, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, but as children, we're rewarded for very different behaviors. Women are rewarded as young girls for being nurturing and helping other people, taking care of baby dolls, like empathy, and showing your emotions. And men are encouraged to be competitive at a very early age and be the best and the smartest and the brightest. And like, it's not like a collaborative culture the way that like girls are raised. So I think a lot of this could be just like if we just flipped the script a little bit and had some classes in elementary school instead of like learning how to write in cursive, maybe we should learn basic communication skills with each other.
person never got over having to learn cursive.
Oh, I can't believe I know how to do an R in cursive.
Bad at cursive, dude.
Really?
Like, I almost got kicked out of school. They were like, "You're hopeless.
Because of cursive?
You'll never succeed." Yeah, well, maybe not cursive, but like handwriting in general. My handwriting is still atrocious.
Oh yeah, you're a computer
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, I haven't written on a piece of paper in like 100 years.
Right,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wait,
Good thing we learned it in 3rd grade.
Instead of learning how to communicate.
So, like, Neill, for you, was it like, do you feel like it was an intentional journey for you to find men that you could have, like, interpersonal communication with? Or is it something that you feel like you just, like, lucked into with the people that you met?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, it more just ended up being like a byproduct of the people I met and just kind of became good friends with. And they just happened to have similar values, feelings, and being open with your emotions and things like that. But I do think I've had to do some work to like deconstruct the like programming of this is what it means to be a man. You need to be competitive. You need to strive for greatness, win, you know, that type of thing. But also, it's just like kind of my personality. Like, I never experienced a lot of this feeling of drive to compete with other men or any of that, really. It just didn't interest me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm much more interested in, like, putting something good out into the world.
I wanted to know kind of about like your home life growing up. Like, did you have siblings? Were your parents encouraging of certain behaviors? Do you feel like any of that was learned in the home?
Yeah, for sure. Like, so I have one younger brother. He's about 2 years younger than me. I'm 33. So, but we had like a pretty typical, like, I mean, my parents had a decent relationship. You know, there wasn't any like fighting or divorce or anything like that. They took care of us. One story that I think about all the time when I think about this issue specifically, just like male conditioning in general, and when I try to like relate that to the way I was brought up, when I was like in 1st grade, my parents put me in baseball, and I was like so fucking bad at it. Like, it was embarrassing, dude. They made me do it for like a year, and then they pulled me out because I said I hated it, you know? And like later, you know, they got me a drum set, and they're like, oh, well, that's his thing. He's much more interested in creative pursuits or something like that. But that's to illustrate, I feel like a lot of parents would be like, no, you got to be a man. You got to stick with baseball, and you got to get good. It doesn't really matter whether you like it or not. I think my parents were just like, we're not going to force them to be a certain way. Like, yeah, maybe they'll like playing baseball, but it wasn't about like you must play baseball so that you're assuming the correct male role.
Yeah.
They're just like, he needs something to do extracurricularly. Like, let's try this. And when it became apparent that I wasn't that interested, they were like, okay, we'll try something else. You know? And I feel like a lot of men don't get that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they get a lot more like kind of rigid values and conditioning about what it like gender roles from their parental figures, I think.
I mean, this also goes back to the fact that we should have classes on communication and also on parenting.
Yeah.
Sure.
I have something kind of unrelated to say, but it will come around, so bear with me.
Okay.
Because everything for me goes back to Beyonce.
Here we go.
Yes. Slay.
Kristen loves to complain that our whole dinky TikTok now is Beyonce videos because all I watch on my personal TikTok is Beyonce videos. But
And even last night we were at a brewery and I heard her talking about trips and I was like, she's fucking talking about Beyonce again. Like every time I tuned into her conversation, I swear to God, it was Beyonce. She got mad at me because it actually wasn't last night.
Let your little Beyonce flag fly, dude.
Thank you.
Don't listen to her.
Thank you. I was on a real Taylor kick for a minute, and now I gotta re-embrace my Beyonce roots, and I need everyone to just accept it.
Great, we do.
Thank you. So I saw a clip recently with Beyonce's mom, Tina Knowles, where she was talking about a period of time when Beyonce had just gotten into Destiny's Child, and she was like really connecting with the other like members of the group. And Solange, her little sister, was like really left out, and they started feuding a lot. And her mom was like, oh, hell no, we're not going to do this. And she said at the time she put her two girls in therapy together because she was like, I want my girls to have a good relationship and I'm going to prioritize this. So you guys have to go to weekly therapy and like hash out your differences because I want you to be close. And she was like, at the time, like both for the time period and in the Black community, that was like very frowned upon. People did not look kindly upon therapy, but I knew it was the right thing to do for my girls. And she was like, now they have such a close relationship, and I credit a lot of that to them going to therapy together. And the reason that I bring this up is because I do feel like there is a world where like she could have looked at that and been like, this is like typical sibling behavior. They're just drifting apart and that's normal. I'm just going to let them drift apart. And I say this because I do feel like I have a lot of friends who have kids who have had a boy and a girl, and they're like, I get it now. Boys are so different. They're so different. And then they just double down and let the boy be different. And I feel like I wonder if there's a world where, like, you know, what if people just like put their boys in therapy from a very young age and like pushed them to be more emotional, pushed them to be more communicative? They would grow those skills. But I think too often we just assume, oh, boys will be boys. You know, we just gotta let them be boys. Why?
I didn't make these rules.
Neill is taking personal responsibility for this.
Yeah, I want to apologize on behalf of
All the men.
male gender conditioning for all time ever. I think that really hones in on something I was trying to say earlier too, like about us wanting, like men and women generally wanting the same things. Like, I don't think communicating your feelings is not a gendered thing, right?
Yeah.
This is a human thing. And I think a lot of like we've put things in these different gender role categories. Like, this is a thing that men do, this is a thing that women do. And I agree with you both because we brought up that like there are certain differences between men and women, kids, whatever, like, and we should acknowledge that. But I think a lot of this kind of disproportionate suffering comes from the fact that men feel like they're allowed to do these things and they're taught that it's feminine to do this or vice versa, you know, and it's causing issues, I think.
I think because we're encouraged at a young age to like express our emotions, we have more healthy outlets for when we feel those emotions. And like, you know, we journal, we talk to our friends. Whereas like men, when they start to feel these emotions that are uncomfortable for them in adulthood, like loneliness, and they don't know how to express it in a healthy way or, you know, deal with these emotions in a healthy way, it kind of makes them feel boxed in and makes them shut down.
They go to war.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't society be so much better if we just like drafted all men to the army at 18?
I'm not going.
Just kidding.
I mean,
What an interesting take, Kristen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
wow.
my take. Wouldn't it be just great if every man just had to go to war and then
They got it
and
out of
then
their
that's
system.
the end?
Yeah. I mean, to riff off that, I've never been to war, but having to learn how to deal with my emotions in healthy ways is something I had to learn, right? Whereas I've had to actively, as an adult, be like, you need to develop the skills to deal with intense feelings or whatever it is, right? Loneliness, and that might be going to therapy. I've gone to therapy plenty of times, and that's one way, but it's all like you said. And I think I agree with, like, men aren't taught those skills, generally speaking, and like stuff like journaling or communicating, that type of thing. So I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of like sending younger boys and men to therapy.
Yeah.
Just a class, teach it in school,
That's the thing,
like
why the F is that not in school?
It doesn't help the corporate
bottom line.
capitalist,
Yeah.
machines.
Yeah,
If we have a bunch of feeling men, what's that going to get us?
nothing. No loot to pillage.
Exactly. I did want to ask, Neill, going back for a second, because you brought up that you do hang out with your friends on a pretty regular basis. So, like, these movie nights and stuff, are these things that are, like, built into the calendar? Every Tuesday, Thursday, Jim and Chip come over? Or is it like, are you guys
Jim and Chip.
good old Jim and Chip?
Some of my friends are women. This is important when it comes to the
I was going to ask this also.
male loneliness epidemic, but we can get to that later. But I mean, they're not like, I'm not gonna like, we say like we get together every Wednesday
Yeah.
if we can.
That's great.
And we've kind of, as a group of friends, like all agreed that we should try to do this.
Yeah.
Unless we have a really good reason not to, because we've kind of all identified that it's becoming essential to our well-being to make sure that we're staying in touch with our friends.
Yeah.
Which is like, I feel like the older I've gotten, the harder it is to get people together for like anything in general.
Yeah.
100%.
And our lives are like all infinitely more complicated than they used to be. And so with a lot of my friends, we've all recognized this and try to say like, we need to have a few things that we just all try to block out to make sure that we're keeping up with each other and spending time together and getting a healthy amount of socialization with each other, because it makes us all happier,
Yeah. Because that was another thing that I was going to say, was like, I do think that, I've seen a lot of like TikToks and videos where people make like jokes about how like men should not be in charge of things because they are like not naturally inclined to be leaders. They are better at taking orders than actually coming up with a plan. And this is something that Kristen and I joke about a lot privately, that men can't make plans. They're bad at scheduling. They're bad at organizing. And I do think that's one place where men are at a disadvantage from maybe biological, maybe socialized. But I do think that's the secret sauce. Men need to just start putting one thing on the calendar. Every Wednesday, it's movie night. Every Wednesday, we go play pickleball.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, go hang with the boys, dude. Like,
yeah, or having like a musical rehearsal. If you have to plan it, you're not going to do it. But if it's just in the books.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like, my friends come to my house and we watch a movie.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't require a lot of logistical shuffling or anything. And I'm also lucky that a lot of my friends don't have kids.
Yeah.
So
I was going to bring that back to like the whole kids thing, because a lot of people I know, when you ask them why they want kids, they'll say things like, when I get older, I don't want to be lonely. Like I want to have family around, etc. And I'm like, damn, like the fact that you have to create a human being to hopefully, quote unquote, ensure that you have somebody to hang out with occasionally, when you could just be doing a Neill and investing in your community on a consistent basis and having
100%.
lots of friends around you as you get older. Not just like your piece of shit Jimmy Chip
What's the
Jr.
fixation on the name Chip? I don't get it.
I don't know. It just came to me and I was like, yeah, that's a man's name, Chip.
Yeah.
That, I forget, didn't you guys post something that was talking about boys' names.
Oh, we talked about
We just did an episode.
We just did an
on it,
episode.
yeah. But it's
Oh,
not
really? I
yeah,
thought I
do
think
it
you
yet.
guys shared a TikTok or
We
something.
did. Oh, we
Yeah.
shared Kristen, you posted I think it was Instagram stories of like the most common names.
Oh, did I? Can't remember.
I mean, it was just like a list of like the most insane boys' names you've ever seen, right?
Oh,
And-
that's
and-
right.
and I got really fixated on the name Trip,
Trip.
like Tripp. My boy
name.
Trip.
I dated a Trip. He was the fucking
What?
worst.
You're lying, dude. Did
The
he suck?
worst. He sucked so fucking bad.
Oh,
actually.
God. What
That
was
could
he
be
like?
Its own. Oh, you want to hear about it?
I do.
Okay. I mean, Erica, are you okay if we derail this for about a Trip story?
Derail it. This is a bonus episode.
Okay. So there's this guy who I kept matching with, or we like kept seeing each other on like different apps or whatever. And he was into wine and I was into wine for like professionally. He was in the restaurant business and I was doing my sommelier certification process. And so I was like, oh, cool. And I actually met another girl who was like, oh, like Trip? Yeah, I know Trip. Like he used to work here. Actually, you guys would be like a great match. So we had a mutual. And so I was like, oh, this is promising, right? Our first fucking date, we meet at a coffee shop. I show up. It gets even worse. Our first date we had planned, he backs out like 5 minutes before because he says, I have to build a desk. I'm so sorry. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got an emergency desk assembly to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. Okay, so that was like number one.
That's
Number
fucked.
two, he slept through our next date. I was at the ramen place and I was like, where the fuck is this guy? And he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I slept. So at this point, I'm fucking fed up, right? I'm like, okay, you had 2 chances. You fucked this up. But again, in the back of my head, I'm like, maybe it's just like all these bad things that have happened.
Coincidence.
Maybe it's just like we're meant to be, but it's like hard at the beginning and like it's going to work out, right? I know. The stamina that I had for dating.
Third time's
was
a
just
charm, dude.
out of control. And I go to the coffee shop. I get there. This motherfucker pulls out an iPad, like immediately. We sit down. He pulls down an iPad and he goes, tell me everything that was on the sommelier exam. He literally just wanted to use me for understanding what was on the wine exam. And I was like, are you fucking serious? And you know, if that happened to me now, I would have just like walked out. I think I would have just been like, bye. I can't remember what I did. I think I gave him like some details, but I was also like, this is fucked up. Like, I got to get the fuck out of here. And then the motherfucker wanted to go out again.
So did you guys go out a 4th time?
Absolutely not. No. I
was
gave
really
three
scared.
times, and then the third time he just wanted to like ask me things, but then he actually wanted a date. Like he wanted to go on a date, and I was like, I'm so confused about your intentions right now.
Yeah. All right.
Who are
That's
you?
fucking insane.
Anyway,
That's
I
heinous
wish-
behavior.
You would have done a 4th date just for the story.
Yeah.
I had enough stories out of 3. Okay, he
I know,
slept
that's
through a
true.
date. He was building a desk. Like, why do I remember this? This was like years ago.
I would be fucking traumatized, dude. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So
That's just like it's hard to imagine more like disregard for
Totally.
someone else's time.
Yeah.
Be like, I know it's 5 minutes before we're supposed to meet up, but
was
I
literally like-
just gotta put this. That's an
Yeah.
emergency. Like, what
so
the fuck are you
sorry.
talking about?
exactly
That's crazy.
Yeah.
nuts.
This confirms my suspicion about trips, though. So I feel validated.
Any Trip who's out there listening, fuck you.
Yeah, Trip, you suck
You suck.
wherever
Trip.
you are.
Yeah. Do you know his name? Could we look him up later?
I feel like this is what's freaking me out. I think I might be able to look him up.
Call him right now on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right, I
let's
will.
talk to him about it. Krista, did you find him?
I'm pretty sure I just found him, but he only has
Oh,
one
God.
photo.
Can we see him? Bruh. That's
And
all
an
I need to
American
see.
flag?
Yep.
Hey,
Oh.
yeah. behind
2012.
him.
This is 2012. But I agree.
When
I
you
agree,
met
it's a
him?
red flag. That's got to be him. That's
Having
him.
an American flag hanging at any point in his
L,
life.
L.
2012 is too recent.
Yeah.
That's 4 years before Trump ran for office the first time. That's way too soon. That's like maybe if you were 10 and you felt proud. Okay, so I was going to say, Kristen, you were talking about men who,
Yep.
I'm going to piece it together. It's going to be slow, but we're going to try. You were saying something about men, and I was going to how men always say, well, you're going to be, or people say you're going to be lonely. But I feel like that's something that we hear from men a lot in our comments is like, oh, I can't wait for you to be lonely. But I wanted to take it back to what I said earlier about how men have wives and kids to bypass ever needing relationships with anyone else.
Yeah, right.
That's all.
Yeah, actually, so I dated an Italian guy. Speaking of men I've dated, this has turned into the men Kristen's dated podcast.
Learning so much about you.
Who actually wrote a song for me and like looked me in the eyes while he
What?
and I
Was
really
it good?
I was really freaked out. He was in love with me after like 2 dates, and I was like, bro, I gotta go.
Oh no! Be writing the song after 2 dates, dude.
Yeah, it was like real.
That's like
but you know
that's
what?
like.
But
Yeah.
Italians, right? Like I feel like they're just like, you know, they fall in love, they're romance.
He knew.
You know, they're like,
He just couldn't help himself.
yeah,
He couldn't
Romeo
control
and
his feelings.
Juliet, you know.
Did the song go, when the moon hits your eye? And she was like, you wrote this for me, didn't you?
I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I gotta go. I dated an Italian guy who was talking to me about this phenomenon, and he was telling me how he had just read a book that was very like exactly what you're saying, Erica, where it's like back in the day, people used to form communities where people served different roles in their lives. The man, you know, your partner was like one piece of the puzzle, but you had friends, you had your family around, you had extended family around, you had, you know, basically, wow, novel concept, community, so that the man in your life served like one, you know, sexual fulfillment and like a couple other things, but like you leaned on like your parents still for childcare help and like friends for, you know, laughing and like jokes. And now we have this fixation on one person, your spouse, serving all purposes.
Yes.
And we put so much pressure on finding like the perfect soulmate, you know, who has everything, who's perfect for you. And I mean, they, you know, I hope everybody finds their perfect person, but in actuality, it's going to be fucking hard as shit to find and be probably realistically not likely. Like, you're still going to need people around you to serve different purposes. And I think women still are a little bit more intentional in general about making friendships and maintaining friendships and keeping friendships, where typically when you hear from a lot of guys, it's they find their partner and then their partner becomes their lives, and then it's their partner who sets up all the social events and like is kind of the lifeline to keeping them sane. Which also drives me crazy that like we also live in a society where like men are like, oh, I'm the one who gets to like decide if I want the woman, you know? Like when you're like, bitch, you need us. You literally need us. Literally. Like, why are you so picky when you're incapable? No offense, Neill. I know you're the exception to the man population.
I want to make a rule that no one's allowed to apologize to me for being critical of men.
Okay, we.
No, I just think like
no one is ever allowed to apologize to Neill.
I just like how it's like a recurring thing on the Discord. People are like, except you, Neill. And I'm like, it's okay. Like we're gonna take up a lot of space if we just say that every time. But yeah, Kristen, I agree with you 100%. Like, oh God, I have so much to say about this. I know. Like, you have to have friends, right? Like, what a insane notion that like your spouse is just going to be your source for 100% of your emotional fulfillment in your life. That's a crazy thing to like.
But don't you feel like a lot of men do that?
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. Like, a lot of people I know, like, or not really a lot of people I know, but people I see, like, the only woman that they regularly socialize with is their wife, right? Or their girlfriend or whatever. And that's just, like, insane to me. Like, why? Like, what a insane burden for that woman, you know? Like, she has to be the sole, like, female presence. I mean, I guess, you know, he probably has a mom and maybe some sisters or whatever, but she's taking a huge proportion of his, like, emotional needs. I mentioned earlier, like a lot of my friends are women. Like I was talking to some friends at the bar a couple weeks ago about this podcast, and I was kind of discussing the phenomenon of like the Discord and being one of the few men involved in the community. And one of my friends, her name's Shannon, she's like, "Well, Neill, most of your friends are women. It kind of makes sense." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
Did you like realize that until that point, or did that?
I had
kind
never
of
really
just
thought of that until then, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like that's true."
Yeah.
You know, but at least me in this whole thing is like, I think a problem is like the kind of conflicting dynamic between men and women, where it's like men are approaching their initial interactions with women wanting to get something out of them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's like sex or even like a relationship or something like that, and they don't really understand how to have like platonic relationships with women, which I think is necessary to having any kind of relationship with women, you know, because like if you're seeing women as like an object or like something that you are approaching to get something out of them, that just completely dismisses the idea of them as other human people, right? And if you don't know how to interact with women as other human people, where do you expect to get, you know? Like, it's crazy to me.
This goes back to everything we were fucking saying about like I don't mean on this particular episode, but in culture, I think men don't respect women at large. I think that they see us as jizz receptacles and baby incubators. And if you don't teach men that, I think culture at large, women are socialized to see men as people to respect, even though I think we're learning that we shouldn't.
I mean, I don't think you should respect anybody until they prove that they're worthy of respect.
Yeah, I just think as a woman, most women that I meet and socialize with don't give me any reason to not respect them. So I think I usually go into relationships default respecting people because I see them as humans, but then you meet men and you're like, ugh.
I'm not trying to suggest that you should be antagonistic towards anybody, but I agree with you 100%.
What you're saying like proves my point also, because I think that you're coming at it from a place where you've interacted a lot more probably even than me with men, and so you have that natural instinct of like you shouldn't inherently respect anyone because men are not to be respected.
Yeah, I mean that's basically my point. Is like even I have interacted with enough shitty men that I'm like have my guard up when I meet a man for the first time. You know what I mean? Like I kind of typically expect shitty behavior. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like to be honest, like but once we talk and I get to know someone's personality and if they're cool, that's good, you know?
Yeah, culture just doesn't inherently. Sorry, Kristen, but I don't think culture inherently sees women as humans, and so men don't see women as humans. They see women as objects to get something from, and that's why they don't really have like an interest in being friends with women, and that's why we have this whole fucking debate of can men and women even be friends, because men inherently think no, women just should be someone that I jerk off to.
Well, women have their guard up whenever a man approaches me. I have my guard up of like, what does this man want from me? It's harder to be friends, platonic friends with a man, especially as an adult. Like in school, it's like you kind of grow up together. It's a different dynamic. But I'm an adult, and now when a man talks to me too much, I'm like, what are you trying to get at here?
Totally.
Like, what's your end game? So it just creates like a lot of distrust. I mean, as it should, because oftentimes men do have like more
ulterior
not
motives.
Great intentions. So I think honestly a lot of all of society just needs to be retrained and educated and I think everyone would be happier as a result.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is the result of like men's behavior over time, right?
Yeah.
Like are you guys familiar with Matt Walsh?
Yes, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. He's a conservative commentator and a fucking asshole.
Internet.
Matt Walsh, if you're listening to this, go fuck
you.
yourself. In my light prep for this, I was watching, he had an episode on his show talking about male loneliness, right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Look
And
at this
of course,
research done.
dude. Well, I wanted to see what they were like kind of saying about it,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
anything.
What are they saying?
You know? I mean, it's exactly what you would expect. They're like when he went on like a tirade about he's saying that like women don't want to be what we were just talking about. Like they don't want to be the sole supporter of a husband for all his emotional needs, and they're taking back their freedom and time and yeah.
And they're like pissed about it.
And
just to be clear?
and he's like, yeah. And he's like going off about, oh, God forbid, as a wife, you have to listen to your husband's emotional needs or whatever, you know? And I'm just like, what you're saying is insane. It doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Like, what one person can meet any other one person's entire, like, emotional, like, the whole complex of needs that you have. Like,
And also, why is it the woman's fault all of a sudden?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. And then he
How
goes
is there
on.
no
yeah,
responsibility for the man?
Yeah. You know? He's like,
Kristen and Neill are just raising their hands in the air.
I don't know what to
front-
tell
Come on,
you.
Matt Walsh.
He sucks, that motherfucker. And I think like, guys like him are a big part of what's driving men, at least younger men, to act like this. But, like, what else did he say? He was talking about how, like, we don't have, like, the lodges for the boys anymore where we can go, like, smoke cigars and our wives aren't there. I'm like, first of all, sounds pretty gay. And, like, you know. And second, like we just don't do anything together. Men, like, don't have places to socialize and this kind of thing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what is stopping you from getting together with your friends to go anywhere?
Exactly.
Like, to a bar or, like,
Your
go
house.
play a sports team. There's so much shit out there that, like, there's an unprecedented amount of opportunities for you to socialize with other people.
Matt Walsh is basically blaming women for not taking the initiative to figure out how men should socialize with other men because they feel lonely.
I mean, this is what drives me nuts, because it's like you guys asked me earlier, like, what do you do to combat loneliness, right? It's like, I'm involved in things that reflect my interests and the type of people I want to spend time around. I play music and bands, you know? Yeah. There's bars and restaurants where I know people and go hang out and see people on a regular basis.
So let me ask you this, Neill.
Yeah.
Are you lonely?
Not particularly.
And do you have a woman in your life who organizes this shit for you?
No.
There you go. Fucking problem fucking solved, and no woman was involved.
This is
I
my
mean,
whole
I know I'm
frustration
great
about
and
this
all.
conversation. You are great, Neill. We love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
This is my whole frustration, though, is that they want to make this about women not fucking them. And I'm like, but you don't even like women. Like, you just want
Why would they fuck you then? You know? Like, this is my whole beef when I see this shit online. Because, like, if you come to women with this attitude that, like
they owe you something.
They owe you something, exactly. You know? Like, how do you expect someone to respond to that? If someone came to you and said, like, I don't know, I'm going to take something from you. I like, it's owed to me.
Yeah.
You know? You probably would react to that with a certain amount of hostility.
Totally.
They think that the relationship between men and women is hierarchical. Mm-hmm. One is stronger than the other, and that's how it should be.
Yeah. I also think that, like, in many situations, men are making it worse for themselves. Like, I think of, I don't know if you guys saw this, but, like, Mark Zuckerberg was, like, addressing this, like, loneliness epidemic and saying that, like, the way that they're fighting back at it for Meta is, like, creating these AI bots that you can be friends with. I'm like, this is
God,
the fucking solution.
Here's the thing about men. Men generally seem to be looking externally for why they're unhappy instead of looking internally and figuring out ways that they could fix their own dissatisfaction.
Yes.
Like, the fuck? Like, they're like, oh, we got to create bots because we figure out like, maybe how to reach out to other people and form connection naturally.
As if there's not enough potential friends on the face of the planet.
Exactly.
But instead of building walkable cities and like third spaces, we want to blame women and it's insane, and build AI robots.
There's no accountability.
Have you guys seen the thing about, I was reading something about these chatbots that they're starting to build. Like right now, there's programs out there that have like really sophisticated like AI companionship, girlfriend type stuff.
Right.
And I forget what I read, but one of the first things that they saw was almost immediately men were starting to act like extremely violent towards them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We did an episode about this.
Yeah, they can't.
Did you? Maybe this is where I heard it.
A long time ago. It was a long time ago.
It's entirely possible that I heard it here.
No, I love that. I love that it stuck with you.
But I think about this AI shit all the time. And
Yes,
I always enjoy when you guys talk about AI stuff. Because as like a technology person, like this is something I'm thinking about a lot, right?
We should all be very scared of AI.
Do we think that's going to improve the way that men are oriented towards women in the real world, or make them more likely to be violent?
More likely to be
like,
violent.
You know, to me, the answer is obvious. I think the only thing you can do is destigmatize that kind of behavior even further. You know what I mean?
I mean, this is like what I get scared of too for like sex robots, because part of me is like, okay, yeah, just give men sex robots so that they can just get all their weird shit out on the robot. But then it, like you said, it desensitizes them to be violent towards sex robots, and then they can't be normal towards women. It's just like it's a unfixable problem unless men just go to therapy, which they won't.
I mean, like AI is kind of like porn escalated, right? Like we've taught like these unhealthy behaviors in porn, and now it's escalating into real life, and a lot of women don't want to be treated like shit. Like, shocker.
There was a Reddit post that I really liked that kind of says a lot of the same stuff that I already said. Should I read it and we can discuss, or should we just skip it?
Do it.
The title is "The Male Loneliness Epidemic is a Self-Pitying Problem, and There is an Easy Solution." He writes, "I'm a man in my early 30s. Neill, did you write this?
It's funny, when I read this earlier, I was like, did I write this? But I don't think I did.
He said, I don't have anything particularly special going for me. No insane social skills, no high status career, no crazy hobbies that make me a magnet for conversation. The only thing I can say I do differently than a lot of lonely men is engage with people out of curiosity rather than desire. The issue with male loneliness isn't some massive cultural shift that made people averse to men in public. It's not that society has abandoned men. It's that many men have abandoned society by narrowing their social focus to only one goal: romantic validation. I see this all the time. Guys claim that no one wants to talk to them, but what they really mean is attractive women aren't engaging with me. These same men often ignore entire categories of social opportunities: talking to older people, engaging with other men platonically, striking up casual conversations with strangers just to connect. If the only people you try to talk to are women you find attractive, of course you're going to feel isolated. That's not loneliness, that's self-inflicted social starvation. Men who constantly claim that no one wants to talk to them, ask yourself, when was the last time you made conversation with someone without an ulterior motive? Do you engage with people who don't directly serve your personal interests? Have you made any effort to contribute to a community rather than expecting one to embrace you? The men who actually go out into the world with an open mind and a willingness to engage rather than just seeking validation don't seem to be the ones complaining about loneliness. If your entire social strategy revolves around being wanted rather than wanting to engage with the world, you will always feel lonely. And that's not a societal problem. That's a you problem. If you are lonely, truly lonely, not just horny and starved for romantic affection, go outside and talk to people. It's really that simple.
Wow.
Damn.
So well
It's the
written.
most based Reddit post.
Neill, react, please.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Did I write this? I think I did. Yeah. You got to get out there and talk to people, man.
Yeah.
Like, you got to get out of your little internet bubble and go interact with real women and other people in the real world.
Yeah.
Treat them like you would treat any other kind of people. I think that's really the key, man. Like, you can't be coming into your interactions with women like this, I don't think.
Yeah.
If you want to not be lonely.
I feel like the TLDR with that whole Reddit post is like, don't be a disgusting piece of shit and be a human.
Yeah.
Basically.
But why do we have to explain this to men?
I don't know. This is a really good question. Because, like, we were getting into my upbringing earlier. I'm like, what happened to me? Did I, like, fall off a truck or something? Like, I didn't.
You hit your head.
Yeah. Like, because when I see other men routinely engaging in this kind of behavior, and I'm like, am I stupid? Am I doing something wrong? Should I become an asshole? But no, I think the world we live in just makes people shitty other times. You know?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you can't fix like being brought up with bad values or being brought up to online where you get exposed to shitty ideas or whatever.
Or it just takes a lot of effort to fix that, and like a lot of motivation to look internally and be like, I don't like the way that I am and I want to change. And I don't think enough men are looking internally going, I don't like this about me and I want to change. I think they're all just like, okay. So another anecdote for you. I think it was also in my psychology class, guys.
Wow, this psychology class.
I really got my money's worth from this. It has stuck with me forever. There was some kind of situation where there was a professor, and the professor was like a math professor. And when they had office hours, they noticed that the women were coming in and going, when a problem was hard, they would say, there's something wrong with me. I can't do this. I can't solve this problem. And when the men were coming into office hours, they were going, there's something wrong with this problem. The problem is not right. And so, again, I think that just like accurately reflects the way, typically generalizing how men look at problems versus women look at problems. They're like, what can I do to fix this? And a man is like, how does everyone else around me change so that it's better for me?
Yeah, that tracks.
What was your dad like?
My dad is pretty similar to me, I think. I know we're not super close friends, but like we're pretty similar personality. Yeah.
Did he say I love you?
Yeah. Like very, very affectionate, very like, but I mean, he's also someone who's not like a kind of stereotypical like man dad, you know. He's a much more sensitive and kind of emotional person. He likes music. He likes this and that. You know?
Mr. Wolf.
And maybe that's... Yeah, he's pretty cool. Jeff's a cool guy.
We love you, Jeff.
Maybe you guys will get to meet him someday.
Aww.
They're in Portugal right now. Yeah, that's right.
Wait, they're in Portugal right now?
They are in Portugal.
Hell yeah.
Do they live there or are they just visiting?
Haven't I told you guys about this?
I forget.
Probably, but Chris and I don't remember
Yeah, that's true. You guys aren't tracking my life.
I don't even track Erica's, and we talk every day.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't even track this podcast.
She tracks my location,
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's not get started on that. Should be illegal.
Neil's the mediator now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm going to start refereeing podcasts.
Where are your parents? Why are they in Portugal?
They're in Portugal. I don't know why they're in Portugal, but I don't know, like a year ago, they just decided to go kind of randomly, and they were there for a week, and then they came back and started looking into moving there.
Hell yeah.
So now they have like, I think it's like less than a year, but like 8-9 month visa, something like that.
Nice.
So they do live there.
Yeah, they are currently there. So they sold everything at home, house, so like living in an Airbnb for a month, and go somewhere else. They're like learning Portuguese. They're just like,
that.
I love
Yeah.
this. They have adventurous spirits and clearly an appetite for experiencing new people, cultures, learning still. I love
feel
that.
like Portugal is where people go to retire. I know so many people who go
Yeah.
to retire. So are
That's
they
true.
gonna stay there?
there's a lot of American expatriates there.
Yeah.
Like, it's a beautiful country if you've never been. My brother and I over Christmas this past year went there to visit them.
Have you visited? What was it like?
Yeah. First of all, it was Christmas, and they love Christmas there. It's a big Catholic country. So they
Yeah.
had like, my parents were living in this city called Espino, and it was like their little apartment that they were living in was on this block of like stores and just like restaurants, kind of like a strip kind of street, but it's like cobblestone and nice. And they had it all decked out for Christmas. Like there's lights everywhere, and they're just like playing music, like cooking food and roasting chestnuts outside. It was
Love
wild,
that.
man. Yeah. And we went to eat at this restaurant, and while we were there, this parade of people comes in. They're banging drums and playing music and singing Christmas songs.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. But we did that, and then we went to Porto, which is like the city.
Mm-hmm.
Porto's just beautiful. It's right on the ocean, and you can see the waterfront, and they
People
have
compare it
tons
to
of...
like Bay Area in California.
Yeah.
Was it that vibe?
Yeah, it's similar climate.
Cool.
And we went into this building that was like, it used to be like the Department of Commerce like building, but it's from like the 16th century or something like that. And it just they have all this crazy, just ornate like stone work and like murals and just old amazing architecture stuff. Like it was really cool. And the food there's fucking amazing. A lot of good seafood.
So, I just want to say,
Yes.
Neill, we like you so much that we want to
Yeah.
talk to you for like 2 hours straight. So thank you for letting us have you on for this long.
Anytime, my friends. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
So thanks for listening, guys. Dinky is a podcast on the Spreaker Prime Network. Many thanks to Chloe Steinhoff-Smith for our podcast art, Leah Herder for creating our show's theme and interview transition music, and Neill.
Vincentino!
Hey.
Shortino
My boy.
for audio mixing and editing. Vince is such a legend on this pod.
Vince,
I
call
hope you
me,
know
dude.
that, Vince.
Yeah, Vince, I just want you to know, like, you are like a character on the show, and
Yes.
people recognize you and talk about you in the Discord. So
Yeah.
like, you're kind of famous.
You're
Vince and I are going to start the competing podcast. That's what I want to do.
Love that. Nothing can compete with this gold. Nothing? Okay, great. Want to connect with us on social media? You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, wherever the fuck you want at DinkyPod. If you have a question or a comment, email us, dinky@dinkypod.com. Give us a
Erica,
review.
do you have male friends?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't feel like I have male friends that I hang out with one-on-one, but I do have male friends. I think your husband is a friend of mine, is he not?
Oh, that's fair.
Is he my friend?
I feel like I have a lot of guy friends, and I'm trying to figure out like why. Like, how did I get into this world of where I have like guy friends that I hang out with one-on-one with?
What's the ratio, Kristen?
I have 3 pretty close guy friends that I see with some regularity.
And how does that compare to the amount of women you hang out with regularly?
There's definitely more women, but
And how does that compare to
You
the...
hang out with one-on-one?
yeah, I'm thinking Brent. I'm thinking Ethan.
I don't
I
know
see
why I
him.
don't think of Brent in the same category.
Brent has been my
Brent's
best guy
kinda
since high
lesbian.
school. He's married to a woman.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just wondering because I was like, who do you hang out with that's a
I
guy?
have couples that we hang out with.
Yeah.
Alexander. I loved Tim last night.
we
He's
loved
great.
him.
Gay friends, but again, I don't think of them in the same category as
Right.
men. They are men. I have Neill.
You have Neill.
Yeah.
Neill
Are
is
we
all of our
friends? Okay, we're friends now.
guys. Yeah.
Neil, how fucking dare you?
We're
even
taking this
ask that?
parasocial relationship to the next level.
Neil, I
We're
talk to you
hanging out
every
right
day.
Now.
I know. I'm just kidding. Thank you.
You guys hung
Fucking
out in
joking.
Egypt for a week, so
2
you
weeks.
guys
That's
are
true.
friends.
Oh, yeah, that's
But then Kristen's like, I'm leaving the United States forever. So
Peace.
I'm.
I'm gonna hang out with your parents, Neil. Your dad's
That's
gonna be my
true.
new guy
You
friend
are.
in Portugal.
He will.
F.
Yeah, you can. This is what's gonna happen. They're gonna start sending me pictures all the time. Be like, we're over here in Europe. Neil and Erica are fighting the secret
Fighting
police.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We'll be in El
God.
Salvador together.
Yeah. C-Cop, what up?
Oh my God. If you're a fan of the show, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, share the podcast with your. I was going to say share the podcast
show
with the
notes?
show. Yeah.
Okay.
Visit the show notes. We have some trips coming up that you can join.
We have a lot of trips. Mexico and Christmas markets. Berlin, Prague, Dresden.
Go on a dinky trip.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Neil, you want to endorse any trips here?
Yeah.
He's holding his heart like he's about to cry.
I'm having a heart attack.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was like,
Go if you can go on a dinky trip, you will have fun. I went to Egypt with Erica.
Would
and
you
it
go
was
on another trip?
fire. Absolutely.
Okay.
I definitely plan on going on more though.
Have you seen those articles that are like, if you go on 4 international trips a year, you're less likely to burn out from work? Who the fuck
did
is
see
taking
that.
4 international trips a year?
You're
Crazy.
taking 4 international trips a year. You're not working.
You don't have a job.
You don't
Yeah,
have a
that's
job.
crazy.
That's
You're retired.
No, yeah. I'm
Okay,
trying to
sorry,
imagine
Neil.
doing 4 Egypts in a year.
I know, that's like
I would.
8
That's
weeks
crazy.
off.
There's no way.
What American
Anyway,
job is giving you that?
where do you want to go, Neil? Where's your next ideal
Oh
destination?
man, you know somewhere I really want to go is Japan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also want to go to Ireland.
Okay.
Ooh.
If you end up there, Kristen, I'm coming.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Uh,
I am meeting up with a dinky member in Ireland. So
see, here's another interesting thing. Male loneliness epidemic. My closest male friend is a gay man named Tommy. But he just met a man from Ireland who apparently has some kind of ties to St. Louis.
no way.
And they're now an item. Yeah, he was at the last movie night.
Oh,
And
cute.
he's planning on going to Ireland at some point. He lives in Dublin. And so he was here for like 3 weeks visiting.
Now they're
And
together? From abroad?
Yeah, they're doing the long distance thing.
Whoa.
Cute.
They met online and started talking, and he eventually came here to visit, and I think they decided to
Whoa,
Make it a
pull the
fish.
trigger at that point.
Oh, how cute.
Yeah.
And he survived the tornadoes.
He did.
Hell yeah.
He was like, yeah, I was pretty close to my house, but I wasn't there.
Wow.
Whoa.
He lucked out. But anyway, the only reason I even brought that up is because I'm going to use the fact that his Irish boyfriend is over there as an excuse to visit.
That's right.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's
God,
right.
that'd be so
Frequently
much
as
fun.
possible.
We'll go on like a little pub crawl.
Well,
Hell yeah.
I'll miss
Hell
you
yeah.
guys. Bye.